Welcome to PLA Insights, your go-to podcast for the latest in technology and innovation in healthcare 4.0. Today, we'll be delving into the world of pharmaceutical supply chain traceability. We'll discuss the challenges, the potential of digital twins, and the importance of industry collaboration.
Yeah, the pharmaceutical supply chain is facing a real crisis of visibility and transparency.
That's interesting you say that. Why don't we unpack that a little? What are the most significant consequences of this lack of insight?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's a major public health risk. Counterfeit drugs are a huge concern. A recent WHO study actually found that nearly 10% of medications in developing countries are counterfeit, and this can lead to treatment failures and even death.
Wow, that's a sobering statistic.
Yeah.
What else are we seeing as a result of this lack of transparency?
We also see significant disruptions to the supply chain. This can range from product recalls, which are costly for companies, to shortages of essential medicines, which can have devastating consequences, especially for, vulnerable patients.
So how can we begin to address this multifaceted problem? I've heard a lot about the potential of digital twins. Can you tell us more about this technology and how it might be applied to the pharmaceutical industry?
Sure. A digital twin is essentially a virtual representation of a physical object or system. In the context of pharma, we can imagine a digital twin that mirrors a drug's journey from the manufacturing facility all the way to the patient.
So it's like a digital fingerprint that allows us to track a drug's entire life cycle.
That's a good analogy. The digital twin could contain information about the drug's manufacturing process, its packaging, its distribution route, its storage conditions, and even details about the patient who ultimately receives it.
How does this work in practice? What are the technologies that enable the creation and maintenance of such a digital twin?
Well, the Internet of Things, IoT, plays a key role here. Tiny, affordable sensors can be embedded in packaging, pallets, and throughout transportation vehicles and storage facilities. These sensors would constantly collect data about things like temperature, humidity, light exposure, and location. That data is then transmitted to a central system, creating a dynamic, real-time picture of the drug's journey.
So if a shipment of medication is delayed or exposed to extreme temperatures, the system would immediately flag that issue.
Yes, exactly. This allows companies to be proactive, potentially preventing a shipment of medication from being compromised before it reaches patients.
It sounds like there's a lot of potential here, but I imagine integrating all of this data is a significant undertaking. How do we ensure that the information collected by these sensors is reliable and accessible across the entire supply chain?
That's where technologies like blockchain come in. While often associated with cryptocurrencies, blockchain's real strength lies in its ability to create a secure and immutable record of transactions.
So every time a drug changes hands or its environment changes, that information would be recorded on the blockchain, creating a permanent, tamper-proof audit trail.
Precisely. This level of transparency could be transformative for the pharmaceutical industry, boosting accountability and building trust among all stakeholders.
This is all starting to sound a bit like science fiction, but what about the human element? Are we talking about replacing human oversight entirely with automated systems?
Not at all. Human expertise will always be crucial. However, artificial intelligence and machine learning can help us manage the vast amounts of data generated by digital twins and IoT sensors.
So AI and machine learning can help us identify patterns and anomalies that might not be immediately apparent to the human eye.
Exactly. They can act as an early warning system, flagging potential issues before they escalate into major problems. That's right. Think of them as virtual detectives constantly scanning the data for clues that something might be amiss.
It sounds like digital twins have the potential to revolutionize how we think about pharmaceutical supply chain management. But as with any new technology, I imagine there are challenges and considerations. What are some of the hurdles that need to be overcome to make this vision a reality?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is data standardization and integration. Pharmaceutical companies use a wide variety of systems and software, and getting these systems to communicate seamlessly is a major obstacle.
So interoperability is key. We need to ensure that data can be shared and understood across the entire supply chain.
Absolutely. Another concern is data security and privacy. We're dealing with sensitive information, including patient data, so ensuring the security of the digital twin platform is paramount.
When we talk about data privacy and security, it raises the question of access. Who would have access to this data, and how can we ensure that it's used responsibly and ethically?
That's a crucial point. Different stakeholders would need access to different levels of information. A manufacturer might need detailed data about the production and shipping process, while a pharmacist might only need to verify the authenticity and expiration date of a medication.
So we would need to build in different levels of access and permissions to ensure that data is only available to those who need it and for legitimate purposes.
Exactly, and it goes beyond just access control. We also need to consider the potential for bias in the algorithms that analyze this data. If these algorithms aren't carefully designed and tested, they could perpetuate existing inequalities in healthcare access and outcomes.
That's a really important point. We need to make sure that this technology is used to improve equity and access to healthcare, not exacerbate existing disparities.
Mm.
So given all of these challenges, what steps can the industry take to move forward with the implementation of digital twins?
Collaboration is key. No single company can solve this problem on its own. We need stakeholders from across the entire pharmaceutical supply chain, manufacturers, distributors, healthcare providers, technology companies, regulators, and policymakers to work together to establish standards, share best practices, and drive innovation.
It sounds like a massive undertaking, but the potential benefits are enormous. A more transparent and secure supply chain could lead to safer medications, reduced counterfeiting, fewer disruptions, and ultimately better health outcomes for patients worldwide.
Exactly. And it's not just about addressing the challenges we face today, it's also about being prepared for the future. As healthcare systems become increasingly complex and interconnected, technologies like digital twins will be essential for ensuring the safety and efficacy of our medications. It's about creating a system that is both resilient and adaptable, capable of responding to evolving threats and challenges.
It's exciting to think about the possibilities, but I also recognize that this is a long-term vision. What are some of the more immediate steps that the industry can take to start moving in the right direction?
Well, there are already organizations working on this, and their initiatives are showing real promise. The PharmaLedger Association, for instance, is focused on building a more transparent and resilient pharmaceutical supply chain.
I understand they're quite active in the area of digital twins. Can you tell us more about their work?
Sure, they're spearheading several pilot projects exploring the use of digital twins for tracking and tracing medications. They're also developing industry standards and working with regulators to establish clear guidelines for data security and privacy.
So it's not just theoretical, there are practical applications being explored right now.
Exactly, and their work highlights the importance of collaboration. They're bringing together stakeholders from across the pharmaceutical ecosystem to share knowledge, pool resources, and develop solutions that benefit everyone.
That's encouraging to hear. It sounds like there's a real sense of momentum building around this issue.
There is, and it's being driven by a growing recognition that the status quo is simply not sustainable. We need a more secure, transparent, and efficient pharmaceutical supply chain, and digital twins, along with other innovative technologies, can help us get there.
It's been fascinating to delve into this complex and critically important topic with you today. As we wrap up our deep dive into pharmaceutical supply chain traceability, what's one key takeaway you'd like our listeners to remember?
I think the most important thing to remember is that this is an issue that affects everyone. We all rely on medications at some point in our lives, and we all have a stake in ensuring that those medications are safe, effective, and accessible. Digital twins offer a powerful tool for achieving that goal, but it will require a collective effort from industry, government, and consumers to realize their full potential.
This has been an incredibly informative discussion, and I hope our listeners feel empowered to learn more and perhaps even get involved in this important work. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.